We're going to take you here to Gulfport, Mississippi. Here, hard to see through the lens here with all of the rain that is coming down across the area. Pretty strong winds in the region.
Very strong, 94-mile-per-hour winds. Those are sustained winds being reported at Gulfport. 100-mile-per-hour winds and gusts. Pascagoula reporting 118-mile-per-hour wind gusts too. And we're getting some damage reports in some areas, like in New Orleans. These are unconfirmed reports of a building collapse and also flash flood warning now for Orleans Parish, also St. Bernard Parish. There's been a levee breach that occurred along Industrial Canal at Tennessee Street. 3 to 8 feet of water expected from this breach. Also in that New Orleans, that building collapse too is in the Garden District there, and certainly there's probably a lot more of that to come. We also want to take you here to Fort Walton Beach, and that's where Stephanie Abrams is standing by. Stephanie, what kind of conditions are you seeing in this region?
Well, right now we're seeing our winds sustained around 30 miles an hour, the winds gusting to 45 miles per hour. That means tropical storm force gusts here. Now remember, tropical storm force winds fall in that diameter, that threshold of 39 to 74 mile per hour winds, and we are seeing a southeast wind. You see we are on the east side of the system, counterclockwise flow like this, so we're getting that southeast wind here, and it is coming right off this nasty ocean. Unfortunately, we have these dunes here. They're built up about, we're guesstimating around 15 feet. They have sea oats well planted in here to help them as well, and the places where we don't have these dunes, the water's actually washing over onto the roadway, so some of the roads are closed. Now, people did get out of the Mississippi and Louisiana coast before those roads closed, and we're seeing a lot of them staying actually right here.
No, I'm just hoping to go back and have a house that's standing. You know, when you live on the water, you kind of, that's one of the things that you have to set your mind to, that once someday a big hurricane like this one's going to hit you and you may lose everything you have. So that's just part of living on the water.
Now, his house, he said, was about 100 feet away from the Gulf, about 12.5 feet in elevation, and it's located right between Biloxi and Pascagoula. So we're hoping that he gets some good news when he gets back, but that might not be the case. One of the main concerns here, we are under a tornado watch until noon, and of course what we're worried about is those winds coming off that smooth ocean. They'll be going very fast higher in the atmosphere, but at the lower levels, once it hits the earth and it runs into that friction, that's when we're going to get that spinning and that twisting motion. So Heather and Marshall, it's imperative that people, you know, don't think, oh, we escaped, we're doing okay. We've got winds, we've got sand, we've got the roads covered, and a tornado watch.
All right, thanks, Stephanie. And indeed, folks are going to feel the effects over the next couple of days north of this region.
Well, you know, and Stephanie was saying all the problems they're seeing there in Fort Walton, it's a lot worse in a lot of other areas. You'll start to be able to get some improving conditions some places on Tuesday along the coast to kind of assess the damage. But, you know, tomorrow all of that rain and wind will be moving into the Tennessee Valley here, so very problematic. Other side of the nation, no big problems.
As you probably know, Nicole Mitchell is part of the Hurricane Reserve Hurricane Hunters. You're looking at Mobile, Alabama, and Pascagoula, Mississippi, and you're looking at a very angry Gulf of Mexico. This particular picture is from Fort Walton Beach, where Highway 98 is closed down in some parts of that area due to high water. Now, Saturday night and Sunday morning, you flew into Katrina as it was strengthening. How was the flight?
The flight wasn't the worst I've ever been on in terms of turbulence, but we definitely had some lightning in the eye wall. That's a sign of intensification. During the flight, of course, the pressure continued to drop. That's when it was under that period of intensification, where it went through from a 3 to a 4 category during my flight, and shortly thereafter upgraded to a 5. So pressure dropping, winds going up. In fact, right as we were leaving, had about 160-mile-per-hour wind in one of the quadrants as we were passing our way out.
Thanks, Nicole. Web Live reports coming up next.
Latest in-depth analysis, live reports from the field, weather experts, meteorologists, and hurricane hunters tell you
as you head down toward New Orleans and points east of Slidell along Interstate 10 and into Mississippi. I'll have a live update and tell you what, we're experiencing here in just a moment.
And Jeff, we're getting battered pretty good here, not quite as bad as where you are over there near Lake Pontchartrain. This is Mike Seidel. Good morning from Mobile, where everybody is hunkered down, the power is out, and the winds continue to howl, so far up around hurricane force and gust.
Welcome back to Hurricane Central as Hurricane Katrina nears its third landfall. This is uninterrupted coverage that we begin. That means you may not see your local on the 8s, and it will be commercial free. Stay with us. We'll give you all the updates. I'm Marshall Cease.
And I'm Heather Tash, and Katrina is indeed a force to be reckoned with. Look at this roof here. It was blown off of a building in Hammond, Louisiana. If you want to look at it again, it really was absolutely amazing through here. A very powerful storm in Gulfport. You have seen sustained winds here of 94 miles per hour and gusts of 100 miles per hour coming through here.
Now, Hammond is just a few miles to the west of where Jeff Morrow is stationed in Covington, Louisiana. Here you're seeing the eye of Hurricane Katrina bear down on Biloxi, Mississippi, just a few miles south, and it continues to move to the north at about 15 miles per hour.
And amounts of heavy rain continue to work into these areas. Also, we're talking about a lot of objects now flying through the air in places like New Orleans and Gulfport. Very dangerous in these areas if your windows are not covered. Certainly you don't want to be outside.
Now, it looks like this hurricane is going to follow Interstate 59 as it heads northward, so the impact is going to be felt well to the inland areas, not only on the coast where the damage is being seen right now. Early tomorrow morning, it would be over northern Mississippi to northwestern Alabama, and in the Ohio River Valley, folks in Evansville to Cincinnati, Louisville, Kentucky, Lexington, Nashville, Tennessee need to be alert for this. Could be a lot of power outages in its path.
Now, our team of meteorologists is fanned out across the Gulf Coast to cover the arrival of Katrina. We're going to talk to storm tracker Jim Cantori in just a moment, and we also have Jeff Morrow. He is in Covington, Louisiana. Mike Seidel is in Mobile, Alabama. We're going to begin with Jeff Morrow, and Jeff, I'm not sure if you can hear me. You're just a few miles north of Lake Pontchartrain, and the winds are hitting you from the north. If the winds were from the south, would you see any flooding in your location from the lake?
I don't think this far inland. We're about 4 or 5 miles north of the lake. We were just down there, as a matter of fact. We're going to get some pictures to you as soon as we can. But I don't think we'd be in danger this far north. The only flooding here would be from all this very, very heavy rain. Now, I'm glancing around here because I'm trying to make sure that we don't have any debris flying. We also have my producer, Jim Gagne, standing by, and he's watching behind me to make sure that I'm not whacked in the head while I'm talking to you. It is a little bit more dangerous out here now. This is probably the worst that we've seen so far. A lot of very, very, very strong gusts coming through. We're on the very western edge of, I guess, what you could call the central circulation. I don't know that we're quite in the western eye wall, but we're in some pretty bad stuff here on the northwest side. We've seen a lot of tree damage around the area. There's some smaller trees right where we are here in this parking lot that are down, but much bigger trees have come down. Obviously, the
Yeah. Hey, this is Seidel, Mobile, Alabama. Obviously, the weather is going down here where Jeff is, and it's going down here. Right now, we've got gusts up over 50 miles an hour. A peak gust is up around 70 miles an hour, which is just below hurricane force. A lot of rain so far, about 2.5 inches. We're expecting 5 inches. Not nearly the amount of rain they had over in South Florida because the storm is moving proportional to how fast the storm is moving. As far as debris goes around here, fortunately, we don't have a lot of trees where I am. I want to get whacked. We had one transformer over there blow about an hour ago. Just one little wire popped off, and it sounded like an explosion. And it doesn't take much. Our power has been out for about 45 minutes, and we continue to get these rain bands. One thing we haven't seen for about an hour and a half are any tornado warnings. We had 3 or 4 earlier for Baldwin and here in Mobile counties. Since then, we've been lucky. No reports of any touchdowns, but again, these in them, especially the outer bands, and it can spin up a tornado at any moment, as certainly as they slows down. So we're just dealing with the wind and the rain here. Everybody at the hotels are just hanging out. There are a lot of these people coming in from New Orleans, from Louisiana, Mississippi, getting what they thought maybe was far enough away from the storm. Of course, not as bad here as it is points west over towards Pascagoula and over towards New Orleans. Heather and Marshall will be here all day. We're always open, buddy.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mike, and stay safe out there. And obviously, you can see we're having a lot of breakups starting to occur in our live reports here because of the conditions which are going downhill.
And there'll probably be more of that throughout the morning as you stay with us. Now, we just had a report from a stringer in New Orleans, one that we use. He says some windows are blown out in the higher levels of the Sheraton Hotel. We have another unconfirmed report of the Hyatt Hotel having the same problem, and that's near the Superdome.
And our guests there are just huddling in the hallways because of this. And also, speaking of the Superdome, we do have reports too that part of the roof has peeled back. Of course, this is a shelter. There are about 10,000 people located here. We also have a report of a leak too in the Superdome. New Orleans is getting hit very hard. A lot of objects flying through the air here, including things like siding. And we've also been talking about lampposts which are blown over in the area. Unfortunate for some of the people that decided not to evacuate and are trying to just hold on during the storm.
They're on they're on generators right now at the Superdome. No air conditioning, but they do have electricity. Now, I want to go to Gulfport, Mississippi, where Jim Cantori filed this report just a short time ago.
Hey, good morning, everybody, from Gulfport, Mississippi, where it just continues to get worse here. We've lost power from time to time. The generator kicks on. Every once in a while, the streetlights will come back on as we have power come back. So it's just teetering right now, but winds continue to get stronger. And you know what else is a danger? Check this out. We were just standing here, setting up our shot. All of a sudden, we hear this big kaboom. And I walk over, and here's this piece of plywood that's basically imploded around these barriers. Just sat there. Boom. That's why it's dangerous to be outside. Not to mention, look at all the trees out here. We have a ton of trees. There's leaves and branches flying around everywhere. And as those winds pick up, we are going to have to kind of back in toward the building a little bit better. And, you know, it's amazing because we think about this. We stand out here. We think, all right, let's see. We're protected on this side of the building. We should be okay from flying debris. And sure enough, you know, things like this happen. So that was a little bit too close for comfort. I want to take you down toward Highway 90 now, show you some pictures that we've just gotten in. And you can see how high the water has gotten already. We're talking about 10 to 12 feet above sea level. So it's really gotten up, and it continues to rise very, very rapidly. That's the Highway 90 area. There's an access road above that, which will eventually become impassable as well. We are expecting the surge to get very, very close to this area here at the Armed Forces Retirement Home. But the good news is we are high enough that we will be out of that surge plane. That is why we're here right now. So all in all, guys, continues going downhill in a hurry. We'll keep you posted as long as we can. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Jim. And of course, the conditions are going downhill in a lot of locations very quickly here as we continue to see that this system now is pushing on shore here. We've been talking a lot about New Orleans, some of the damage going on there. There's also been a levee, too, that has had some problems here, a breach there, and that's along the Industrial Canal at Tennessee Street. And we continue to see some very strong winds.
135-mile-per-hour winds at the latest advisory are around the circulation of this 25-mile wide eye wall. It's moving north at 15 miles per hour, Katrina is. Its barometric pressure, 923 millibars, and that places it about 40 miles southeast of New Orleans. This was the 9 o'clock advisory just about 40 minutes ago, so it's probably about 8 miles closer, or 32 miles, but there's been damage already, and one of the shelters in Chalmette at a high school there. We also have an unconfirmed report. That's where the western eye wall had moved in about a half an hour ago, that there has been some damage to the roof of that building.
And also, we have some new tornado warnings coming in here for catastrophic winds. This is in the New Orleans area. Places like Jefferson Parish coming in here, Orleans Parish, also St. Bernard and St. Charles.
And also Lafourche Parish, and also for Plaquemine Parish. This will go on for some time. Conditions worsening to the north and east of this system. We've also had a structural failure that has been indicated in New Orleans.
Well, in fact, many reports are coming in stating some total structural failure coming in the New Orleans metro area. You know, this area here, too, is a region that relies on a system of earthen levees here, too. Seawalls, water pumps, and luck, really, to protect this area from hurricanes. But keep in mind, too, that the flood control system is designed to handle a Category 3 storm. But, again, Katrina is a Category 4 hurricane here, and it's packing quite a punch to the New Orleans area right now.
And we have another report, too. St. Bernard High may be suffering some major damage as well. That is another area that has been a shelter, and so far about 350,000 people. This is at last report, unconfirmed, without power in the region.
We want to take you now to Florida. We're going to take you to Fort Walton Beach. That's where Stephanie Abrams is standing by. Not getting hit as hard here, Stephanie, but what are you seeing?
Well, we're getting sandblasted here. I'm alongside the general manager of this Holiday Inn we're staying at here, and I want to know, Stephen, what's the biggest concern right now for you guys?
I think us maintaining power for our guests and being able to, you know, that's a comfort when you've got power and lights. And if we can have power, they'll be fine. Other than that, the hotel is very secure. We've done a lot of things to protect ourselves since Ivan.
And what kind of guests do you have staying here? You're booked. You're packed here. How did that happen? How'd you stay open?
Well, we just made the decision, our owner made the decision to stay open to give a lot of the displaced visitors coming to the area. We knew they were going to need places to stay, so we decided we discounted our rates down and decided to just provide them a place to shelter, because it's tough out there. We've been through this in the Panhandle several times, and a lot of our employees and things have had to evacuate, so we felt we'd just be able to try to give them a nice, safe place.
All right, let's talk about these dunes, Stephen. Let's head over here now. Tell me a little bit about the sea oats and why you planted these and how high they are.
Well, this is a restoration project. We learned from Ivan. At that time, our beaches were flat, and of course that caused a tremendous water surge problem from Ivan. So our owner, we kind of all thought that he was kind of, you know, not really there when he put all this in, but believe it or not, he was right on the money. He put in these dunes. It was quite an expense. He did the restoration with all of the sea oats and everything, and as you can see, Dennis was a proven fact to show that it helped our hotel. We had absolutely no damage from the Dennis, and we lost half of this dune with Dennis. This one seems to be holding very well for us right now. So it was a great plan, and I commend him for that.
And in Ivan, what happened? Were the dunes, I mean, everything washed in your hotel room? What happened during Ivan?
Well, there wasn't actually a dune here. The beach was actually flat. So as the waves came in, they just brought all the beach, all the sand and everything just came right in. And if you were to look at the hotel out here, where the pools, all of that were, it was just covered with sand. You didn't even see pools and walls or anything.
All right, well, speaking of sand, we have 30-mile-per-hour sustained winds. I know you're getting sand blasted, so head back inside. Thank you so much, and thank you for being so kind, leaving this hotel open for everybody. We will. All right, I also wanted to let everybody know that we do have a tornado warning here in Okaloosa County, and that is until 9:30 local time, 9:30 Central. We have to worry about that, of course, as we have all that high wind coming in over the ocean, and then the winds hit the ground with the friction. You get that spinning in the atmosphere, so we do have to worry about that. Right now, our winds are moving from the southeast, and again, we are seeing them sustained around 30 miles per hour, gusting to tropical storm force. And that tropical storm force wind threshold is it goes from 39 to 74. So we're gusting about 45 miles per hour. So just imagine what the folks are dealing with that are going through the eye of this storm, because these, you know, I mean, we're blowing around here and that sand's picking up, and you can see that Gulf of Mexico still crashing into the dunes. And actually, where they don't have the dunes, all of this water's already washing over the roads. We do have some road closures, as a matter of fact, on 98. So we're going to stick around here, Heather and Marshall. We are safe, and we will continue to bring live shots to you as long as we can.
Okay, stay safe, Stephanie.
Yeah, you bet. I do want to make a mention, because she was talking with the general manager of that Holiday Inn, that the Attorney General from Louisiana says he will prosecute gougers. And he's had over 24 complaints so far, and I'm sure other states will do the same. And that man at the Holiday Inn lowered the rates to help accommodate people.
Yeah, that's
Just
nice
terrific.
to hear. Well, driving wind and rain is being whipped into Covington, Louisiana, thanks to Hurricane Katrina. Some traffic signals have been knocked down, and a number of trees are down as well, and things are likely to get even worse.
And our Jeff Moore was braving the storm from Covington, and we'll be checking in with him just a little later this morning. But first off, we're going to check in with Dr. Steve Lyons, our hurricane expert.
And Steve, you know, a lot of concerns out there. We've been hearing about some significant damage taking place in some areas. What right now is the biggest danger?
Well, the wind threat right this second is a very big threat in New Orleans, where we're seeing some structure failures, trees falling down, roofs blown off, windows on high-rises blown in. So you need to take shelter immediately into the stairwells of those high-rises and get into a level that's not right at the sea level where it could be flooded, but fairly low level. Now here's the circulation. It's moving to the east of New Orleans, but the western eye wall is clipping the portions of New Orleans, primarily the eastern portions. We've had some type of levee compromise. We're not sure how much water is getting into the city, if it's flowing into the city or not, but one of the levee systems has failed a little bit. So we're concerned about that. Now, in the meantime, this is all consistent with a Category 4 hurricane. The wind damage can be near catastrophic, but at least extreme. On the other hand, on the east side of the circulation, where the wind is coming onshore very soon, the strongest winds are going to be coming onshore near Pass Christian, Wave Land, and Biloxi Gulfport in Mississippi. And there we've had some winds coming out of the east, piling water up there for hours, and now that water's going to be pushed onshore by these southerly winds that are going to be coming onshore. So not only are we going to have some significant wind damage there very soon, if it's not already occurring, we're also going to see some significant water rises along the coast there with a major surge. Now, the highest surge we've ever seen from a hurricane, ever recorded from a hurricane in North America, has been in Pass Christian, Mississippi. And that's about where we're going to see probably the highest surge again. Here's the circulation center moving. There's New Orleans there, and you can see Slidell, just to the northeast of New Orleans, is now in the northwestern eye wall. You are getting some very strong winds there. Take shelter immediately as the system continues to move to the north, maybe slightly east of due north. Now here's the bad part right over here. This eastern eye wall coming onshore in Mississippi. Pass Christian is about right there, and we expect the surge to be extremely high there. Right now our estimates are between 16 and 22 feet for the surge there. We don't know where that compromise of the levee system occurred, whether it was around the lake here or somewhere farther over, but there could be some water in New Orleans area as well. So this is a very treacherous situation. This is going to be the worst situation water-wise in the next couple of hours. In the meantime, the wind in the very high populated city area is going to be a significant problem for at least the next 2 hours until that eye wall goes to the north. Then Slidell is going to get the worst of it, and then it'll go inland and begin to weaken. But it takes a long time for a Category 4 to weaken. We can expect tropical storm winds to extend inland into Mississippi at least 200 miles, 250 miles over the next 12 to 24 hours. And that means power outages will be extending inland as well. Now the winds are quite a bit lower as you go off to the east from the circulation, but the wave heights are very high out in here. So that's the problem we're having out there. But the meantime, right in here, this is the greatest threat for the potential for loss of life away from the coast is building compromises in the greater New Orleans area and in the Gulfport, Biloxi, Pass Christian area in the next hour or two, including Slidell, which is just north of New Orleans. After that, we've got the surge problem, and the surge problem, if anybody's near the coastline, could be extreme right along the coast. In the meantime, the wave action is huge along here. Stay out of the coastal zone. Beach erosion has been tremendous. We've had some longshore currents pulling toward the west, scouring the beach. We've had some dunes rebuilt on there, and that's protected a lot of the beach area. But a lot of the sand has been gone from Destin yesterday, and now some of the highest wave action is over here in Alabama. And that will drop away as the system moves inland, but it's still going to remain at least 15 to 20 feet for the next 6 to 12 hours. So it's a very treacherous situation, wave-wise here, wind-wise in the greater New Orleans area, moving into the Pass Christian, Mobile, Biloxi area, high surge in Mississippi, and then the wave action, as I just mentioned. Back to you in the studio.
Now reports are coming in, too, on damage assessments. Again, a levee breach has occurred, and this is in the Industrial Canal at Tennessee Street in New Orleans. 3 to 8 feet of water is expected due to this breach under a flash flood warning until at least 2:15 this afternoon, Central Daylight Time.
And we also have many reports that are coming in stating total structural failure, too, coming in the New Orleans metro area, and this is coming in from the National Weather Service. We also have some catastrophic wind damage ongoing and imminent in parts of Louisiana and Mississippi, including areas here in Harrison and Hancock counties. And also we're seeing some of that too working in just in the far southeastern end of Louisiana.
Now north of New Orleans is Covington, Louisiana, which is east of Hammond. And this is Jeff Morrow live. Jeff, how are conditions now?
Oh, they're bad, Marshall. This is the worst we've seen so far. Right before you came to me, we had a gust here that was probably up over hurricane force easily. Haven't seen any other trees come down, but we're keeping a close watch on it for you. Again, we are probably getting into the worst. I would say in the next hour, hour and a half, this is going to be the worst. So anybody around here where we are in the Hammond area or where we are in Covington, even on down toward the northern shore of Lake Pontchartrain, this is it. This is going to be the worst of it here, so don't go out on the roadways. There's definitely a lot of debris flying in the air right now, and also a lot of trees down. We'll have some pictures of that for you coming up here in just a bit. In fact, we can go ahead and show that to you. Again, we were out and about just within the last hour shooting some of this. Again, some very heavy rain, some localized flooding, not from the lake, not from Lake Pontchartrain, but from the heavy, heavy rain that continues to pelt down here and pretty much go sideways. I think we're in a pretty good position. We should be able to continue to broadcast unless it rains so hard that we can't get the signal out. But so far, so good. Again, power has been out here for quite some time. As you guys have been reporting, and we're hearing as well, it's a lot different down in New Orleans. We're kind of feeling a little bit better about our decision definitely to evacuate there yesterday because conditions down there seem to be really, really bad. Now we're getting another pretty good gust of wind coming by with a lot of rain coming through the area once again. Again, a little bit hard to hear and a little bit hard to talk when you have this much water in the air and kind of hitting the side of my hood here. So if you ask me a question and I don't respond right away, you'll know why, because it's kind of a roaring sound going by at the present time. But again, this is about it. This is the worst of it. Here in the next hour to hour and a half, we're going to have hurricane force winds at times, and then hopefully things will finally start to quiet down. Heather and Marshall, let's get back to you.
All right, thank you, Jeff. And you know what's interesting too, when you see Jeff being blown around there and how strong the winds are now, there actually was a structural fire earlier there. We have reports of in Covington.
Electrical fire, yeah.
And they were not able to put this out or even go to it because of the strong winds.
This is video from Hammond, Louisiana, which is just west of where you just saw Jeff Morrill undergoing damage throughout the area. There are power outages all over New Orleans, at least 350,000 people without power because of these winds, still at 135 miles per hour around the center of circulation.
We can give you the position here too. The new position is about 30 miles east-southeast of New Orleans, Louisiana, and it's about 50 miles west-southwest of Biloxi, Mississippi. This is the center of Hurricane Katrina.
Now, there are also tornado warnings throughout the region. I want to update you on some of those, and then we'll show you where that tornado threat will be today. Pearl River County in southern Mississippi is now under a tornado warning. That includes Poplarville and Picayune. That till 9:45. George County and Mobile County in Alabama, and George County in southeast Mississippi under tornado warnings, and tornado warnings again for Santa Rosa County in northwest Florida and Okaloosa County. And these storms are moving to the northwest, get this, at 70 miles per hour, not even in the eye of the hurricane.
And we want to go now to Jim Cantori. He's in Gulfport, Mississippi, and find out the latest. Jim?
Okay, guys, here's the deal in Gulfport. As we mentioned, we were at 27 feet above sea level. Guess what? That's not high enough, because what happened is the surge came in, backed up the canals, and right now we have cars that we're looking at out in the parking lot that are completely underwater right now. I can't tell which is the ground, which is where the asphalt is as the water continues to slowly rise. Our winds are shifting a little bit out of the northwest, so hopefully the worst of it is over. But, you know, just like we talked about, it comes in so quick. Literally within 20 minutes, we went from a dry parking lot, or if you will, a non-flooded one, to a parking lot now, which is at least 3 to 4 feet underwater as we speak. We are all safe. The crew is inside. The vehicles, that's another issue. The truck, though, the satellite truck, we did get moved to higher ground just in time before the worst of this came in. So this is something I've never seen, the kind of water that's come up in through here. And you got to imagine, if we're at 27 feet, everything along US 90, and certainly some of the homes, even on the access road, are starting to flood right now as well. So incredible amount of water coming in with this. Winds have been gusting 120 miles an hour in some cases. Just a howling, screeching wind. Almost makes your ears pop a little bit. But the site here is basically, we are part of the Gulf of Mexico right now. All the mobiles in the parking lot are sitting underwater, some up to the windows, some over the top, depending obviously on how deep they are. There are some power poles down. There are trees down. There are tree limbs down all over the place, floating around. There's even some diesel fuel floating in some of the water here, and even huge dumpsters that you couldn't even think about moving as a human being are just floating around like little rubber duckies in the bathtub. So that's the site for you here, guys. We've had to shut down the generators here as a result of the water getting even too high to the generators. So we've saved the electrical panels there for now. Hopefully the water won't get much higher. You guys got anything to tell me? I'd love to hear it. Good news, please.
Just very sad news coming in from you, because you think if you're 27 feet here above sea level, and as you mentioned, you know, all the places that are lower than that, and there the water's 3 to 4 feet high.
And what you need to know too is all of our people that go on live reports, we try to keep out of harm's way, and at 27 feet sea level they thought they would be above harm's way, and indeed it looks like they will be, but boy, that's right on the edge.
Yeah, and it really causes great concern for all the people that tried to kind of wait it out and they thought they would be okay, and very concerned about some folks there in Gulfport, Mississippi, and New Orleans.
New Orleans, yes, you bet.
We're going to turn now to Mobile, and Mike Seidel is there. Mike, we've been hearing about some pretty devastating conditions in some locales. What are you seeing right now in the Mobile area?
Well, the power is out everywhere. We've got a crew going down towards Dolphin Island and towards the coast to bring back some pictures for you momentarily to get an idea of what is going down over there, because we're about 20 to 25 miles inland from the Gulf, and we're about 5 or 6 a perfectly safe area as far as flooding issue goes. The only concern here is debris and these gusty winds, which at times are gusting up just over hurricane force, and the driving rainfall. We haven't had a tornado warning lately. That's a good thing. We had several earlier this morning, and you get a sense of the wind whipping these trees. We had one power transformer blow about 2 hours ago, and that was scary enough. It was as loud as a firecracker, and it sounded like something exploded. But I expect we'll see more of these flashes. I keep an eye across the street, across I-65. Look at it. There is not a car on the highway this morning, and that's the way it should be. Think about it. It's Monday, rush hour, people going into work, not a car out there. It's deserted. And I keep an eye across all these big signs, these road signs, and so far they're hanging in here. The hotel sign here at the Hampton is doing okay. So we've done okay so far, but again, we're just in this little area here. We don't know exactly what's going on around us, but I can assure you as the winds continue to pick up, with gusts probably approaching 100 miles an hour, we're going to have more, certainly more damage, but nothing like they're going to see or they're seeing over around Pascagoula and over towards New Orleans.
Well, stay with the Weather Channel as Hurricane Central and our coverage continues. Hurricane Katrina, one landfall at 6:10 Central Daylight Time, actually the second one for Katrina, about ready to make a third near Biloxi.
And of course, you remember the first landfall was in South Florida last week. You can see the hurricane now working on here. We do have some positive news. We've been talking a lot about some of the devastation, but the Superdome damage that we've been hearing about in New Orleans, that is considered minor damage. We've heard some reports of some of the roof was peeled off and also some leaking taking place. That, of course, is a shelter to about 10,000 people.
All right, the center of circulation at this advisory as of 8 o'clock Central Daylight Time placed the center of circulation of 40 miles southeast of New Orleans with 135 mile-per-hour winds and barometric pressure at 923. As we head to the travel desk now with Nicole Mitchell, she has an update on that.
And Nicole, what's the latest information that you have?
Oh, well, we've been talking about the hurricane hunters this morning, and my colleagues there, their last report, 925 millibars, which is only a slight weakening. Usually they'll quit the flights when this goes over land, but because how Louisiana is, it headed back over water briefly, so they've been monitoring it. People always ask us how bumpy these flights are. When it is going over land, that's when it really starts to get a little bit more so, is that friction with the storm hitting the land. So I anticipate they'll have some stories to tell. But as we head out to the airports and some of the other travel that people are trying to maybe do this morning, here are the problem spots. Well, we've got New Orleans, Gulfport, Baton Rouge, and Fort Walton, Mobile, and Pensacola all closed. Good.
Louisiana, at least in the Covington, Louisiana area, we are well north of New Orleans. We are definitely on the western side of this hurricane, the northwest side. This is generally known as the weaker side, but boy, I'll tell you, you couldn't tell it looking into some of this wind. Gusts definitely probably up almost to hurricane force right now. At times it's a little bit difficult to stand. Just wind-driven sheets of rain blowing sideways, a lot of trees bending over, and a lot of them have come down. Power's been out since early this morning around this area, and with this much rain coming down, I'm sure we'll have some localized flooding. Now, we're not close enough to the lake, and the wind is actually blowing in the opposite direction from Lake Pontchartrain for us to see any problems here, but it could be much different down toward the New Orleans area. Again, we don't know whether these winds are going to be strong enough for Pontchartrain to breach the levee system down there, but nonetheless, we're getting reports from New Orleans that there is some structural damage there. Some light posts at the very least have come down. Some windows have been blown out of some of the high rises, and the Superdome evidently has sprung some leaks there as well. So some structural problems down in Louisiana, some structural damage as the winds there even a little bit stronger. Quickly, I'll walk over here and just show you some of the wind blowing the rain sideways down behind me. Again, we expect to see this for a bit longer until the eye of Katrina passes us by to the east, and then hopefully as we pass the noon hour, things will start to quiet down. I'm Jeff Marr reporting from Covington, Louisiana.
And that's what a lot of people are hoping for, that things will start to quiet down, but we still have a lot to get through.
Indeed we do. We indicated a little while ago of a levee breach in New Orleans. We want to pinpoint that for you as you look at the city of New Orleans here. And this levee breach occurred on the Industrial Canal at Tennessee Street, where 3 to 8 feet of water is expected in the breach. Notice where the French Quarter is. Notice where the levee breach is. This is not limited to Araby and the 9th Ward of New Orleans. It could extend out further.
Now, we just had a report from Jeff Morrow. We told you he had a breakdown because of the conditions there, but we have him back now, and we want to take you quickly here live to Jeff Morrow in Covington, Louisiana.
I lost IFB.
Nope, he's having trouble hearing us. Let's see if we can, we're going to get back to Jeff, but first we're going to go to Stephanie Abrams, and she's in Fort Walton Beach.
She is, where she's seeing some wave heights there that continue to increase, as do the water levels. Highway 98 impassable in many locations. Stephanie, what's the latest?
Well, right now we've just been getting blasted by the sand, basically, and also the Gulf of Mexico, and it's really picked up in intensity, I must say, within the last hour or so. And actually our winds have picked up as well. We have seen them sustain around 34, 35 miles per hour out of Destin. That's where we can get the observation from, and that's just a few miles east of us. And we have seen a wind gust up to 52 miles per hour. That is tropical storm force wind gusts here, so you can only imagine what Jeff and Jim and Mike Seidel and then the residents and visitors to that area are feeling right now. This is what it looks like when you have tropical storm force gusts. Just tropical storm. This thing was a Category 4 hurricane when it made landfall. So maybe you can try to put this in a little bit of perspective, how the winds are just exponentially greater where they are located, and of course that rain as well. We haven't really had to deal with the rain, Heather and Marshall.
All right, Stephanie, and hopefully you won't have to deal with a lot more.
Now, Governor Jeb Bush is having a news conference right now. We want to listen into this.
To once again ask everyone to follow the instructions on the use of generators. Those 2 deaths that occurred because a generator was being used inside of one's home. It is not appropriate to use generators, just as it wouldn't make sense to drive your car into your house and keep the car turned on. It doesn't make any sense to use a generator inside as well. There have been 33 confirmed carbon monoxide poisoning events as of last night, and with the increased use of generators, it's important for people to follow those rules. Florida Power and Light is working quickly to ensure all customers have their power restored as soon as possible. As of 7 a.m. this morning, less than 1% of the residents of Monroe County were without power. 11%, which is just slightly over 100,000 customers in Broward County, are still without power. And in Dade County, 22%, or 212,000 customers, are without power. And we are beginning to see power outages, of course, in Northwest Florida. As it relates to fuel, we are working very closely with the United States Department of Energy and the petroleum industry to ensure we maintain fuel supplies and shipments into our ports. We continue to experience localized fuel shortages, and I would ask that people be patient to make sure that they take care of their own needs, but also recognize that their neighbors need gasoline as well. Fuel supply is no longer just an issue for Floridians, by the way. This will be a regional and perhaps national issue for the short run as we assess, as the damage to the refineries is assessed. If there is damage, it could create significant problems. In the interim, we are going to do what we can, working with our partners in the federal government and with these oil companies to make sure that Floridians do have access to gasoline, that the alternative supplies of fuel from other sources than just in the Gulf are contracted so that we can make sure that we continue to get gasoline into our ports. With that, I would like to ask Craig Fugate to talk a little bit about the specific relief and recovery efforts that are underway.
Thank you, Governor Bush. Now that we've been declared by President Bush as a major disaster area, FEMA and the state are in a unified command and response to the impacts of Katrina to Florida.
We've been listening to Governor Jeb Bush on a state of South Florida on Katrina's first landfall, and also talking a bit about the conditions in the northwestern part of his state right now.
And, you know, we have seen impressive damage already throughout the Gulf Coast. It didn't take long for Highway 98 in Fort Walton, Florida to wash out. Right now, Highway 98 between Okaloosa Island and Destin is closed because of flooding.
Now in Mobile, the winds are picking up and have already caused damage on highways and city streets. Power lines are down and several buildings have been damaged.
And in Covington, Louisiana, roads are flooded, and along the coast, waves are kicking up, making it dangerous to venture out. Here's some of the damage that we've seen coming in from the Covington area. Meteorologist Jeff Morrow and crews sent these pictures in just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, another person getting lashed right now by some strong winds and some heavy rain too, and all morning long actually is Mike Seidel in Mobile, Alabama.
And we're going to turn it over to you now, Mike.
Hello, 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 hello.
Oh.
Testing out his microphone.
Okay.
Mike, what's going on there?
Hey, Heather and Marshall, we're down here in Mobile. We're back out here on the frontage road looking down I-85, or rather I-65, and you can see the power of the wind blowing the water across the highway, across that Ford dealership. You can hear the howling of the wind here. So far, these signs have held up pretty good. This Family Inn sign has held up. We'll swing around right now and show you the flag, and this is looking back towards Mobile. By the way, we just heard that there's an moorings over there in Mobile Bay by the Cochrane Bridge, and right now they've got 3 tugboats out there trying to wrestle with a big oil tanker at this point with these wind gusts over hurricane force.
That's Mobile, Alabama, reporting live, Mike Seidel. We have other reports coming in now from New Orleans, Louisiana, which is getting the brunt of the western eye wall or very near to it.
Well, you know, significant and life-threatening storm surge here of 18 to 22 feet above normal is occurring, and the levees here have actually been overtopped in Orleans and also St. Bernard parishes. Of course, Orleans, that is the county where New Orleans is located. So this is going to lead to some very catastrophic damage coming into the area. We've already heard reports of, unconfirmed, but reports of buildings that have collapsed there, as well as a lot of damage due to some windows that have been blown out, objects flying through the air in New Orleans, such as siding, and also lampposts that have been blown over.
And the southwest part of Lake Pontchartrain has been affected now. The east banks of Jefferson, St. Charles, St. John the Baptist, and Livingston parishes. Serious situation from New Orleans to Biloxi and Gulfport, Mobile, and north of that region with this landfalling hurricane Katrina, still to make its 3rd landfall imminently.
And you know, while we talk about New Orleans and Gulfport and some of these areas that are getting hit very hard right now, there are also a lot of other problems coming out. You know, New Orleans, one of the problems we're seeing too is the Superdome. Now, we've heard reports that this is minor, but the roof was peeled back a little bit there. Also, that they are using generators there, but the air conditioning doesn't work.
Air conditioning doesn't work. Generators can't support it, but it can support electricity. Now, with that breach, there was a little bit of a water leak earlier, and they moved the people from where that leak was. There's about 9,000 to 10,000 people in the Superdome. There have been no injuries, and everything is just fine. Want those of you to know that know someone that has gone to seek safe shelter at the Superdome.
Yeah, keep in mind here with New Orleans, I mean, what's so problematic in the New Orleans area here too is that it is located under sea level, and with that, you know, it relies on a system of earthen levees, seawalls, water pumps, and really luck to protect itself from hurricanes. But you know, that flood control system is designed to handle a Category 3 storm, and of course this is a Category 4 hurricane, and as we've been saying, we are now seeing some breaches there in the levees taking place. Some people, certainly many people, have evacuated the area, but there are 485,000 people that live in New Orleans, and even if they've evacuated, they may come home to into a very damaging situation.
One of those situations that will be damaging for many is in Gulfport, Mississippi. That's where Jim Cantori is. We're going to go to him now.
Just incredible, you know, if you will, first-hand experience with storm surge and how that water can come in and how quickly it can back up. I mean, our water is still coming up now, starting to enter the first floor. We tried to barricade the doors as best as we can. The generators have been shut down. Everybody's holding out, though. All the Armed Forces retirement folks are doing pretty good here. They know what's going on outside and how powerful it is, but there's a lot of course, officers that are here, and we're trying to just kind of barricade any water and keep it out as quick as we can. But, you know, it's just an amazing sight. When you look out at the parking lot, you see cars floating around. We see dumpsters floating around at will, and winds howling at 120 miles an hour. It's just absolutely unbelievable. A lot of tree limbs down, a lot of trees pretty much stripped of their leaves, the ones that haven't come down. And so imagine what a tree looks like fully leafed out, and then imagine what a tree looks like when it's fully defoliated in the fall. And that's the kind of I'm standing here right now. I'm going to have to back up because the water just keeps coming in on this first floor here. So, guys, what am I going to tell you? A lesson in storm surge. We're safe. We're safe.
All right, and here, of course, we were talking to Jim Cantori and breaking up there. And keep in mind, too, that Jim Cantori went to a place thinking it'd be very safe. It was 27 feet above sea level here, where he's located at a retirement center. And still, he said that the parking lot is flooded. We have water coming into the building right now. And, you know, I have a lot of concern because I know somebody personally who decided to stay behind despite my telling her to get out of the New Orleans area. And I know many of you know people, too, that tried to ride out the storm. And it's very scary when you hear some of the information that is coming in.
Indeed it is. Let's check in with Dr. Steve Lyon. Steve, when is the worst going to be over?
Well, it's happening right now, that's for sure, and it's going to be over probably in about 2 or 3 hours. Circulation is starting to make a second landfall here, at least relative to the New Orleans area. Right on the coast of Louisiana and Mississippi here, it's going to go in and it's moving straight north. The western eye wall is over basically portions of New Orleans. And now some of the strongest winds are coming out of the north across Lake Pontchartrain. And if there's some levee breaks there, we're very concerned how much water is getting into the city, because it's going to take a long time to pump that water out if it does get in. And if the water's in there, people can't get in if they're already out of there. And if they're in there, they're going to be in trouble if they're not in higher ground. Now, the circulation is moving here on shore. That means the south winds are coming on shore here. The highest wave action is occurring now along the Alabama-Florida coastline, about 25 to 35 feet, maybe a little higher in some specific locations. And now the right front quadrant is also coming on shore in Mississippi, which makes the surge along that area some of the highest of all. Now, here's the latest visible satellite image. You can see the circulation area very close to New Orleans, but just to the east, but that doesn't matter. The eye wall has caused a lot of damage there, and there's a lot of flooding in the city. Now, let's look at the radar image for a second. First of all, you can see the eye wall here. Look at Slidell. They're in the northern portion of the eye wall now. They may have actually gotten stronger winds than New Orleans did. We'll have to wait and see. But as the system moves inland, it's going to start to weaken. But it's going to take a while because it's a very strong hurricane, and it'll take it a long time before it weakens below the level where it cannot do any more damage. Here's the big patch of the right front quadrant moving into the Biloxi, Gulfport, past Christian area, Waveland area that's produced that large surge. Exactly how large, we're not sure. We're thinking somewhere around the 22 to 24 foot range, but as you heard from Jim Cantori, it could have been higher, maybe 27 feet. A little surprising based on the strength of this, considering a Cat 5 and 69 produced 24 feet, but wait and see. The bad news is it's bad enough that there's a lot of flooding there as well. Now let's look over here. Here's Lake Pontchartrain here. New Orleans sits to the south of it, and now the winds are coming very quickly out of the north, right to the east side, to the west side of the eye wall. And so now the strongest push of water from Lake Pontchartrain toward New Orleans is occurring. So if there are any breaks in the levee system, or if that water tops that levee system, water could be filling up New Orleans right now. We don't know whether it is or not, but the worst case scenario is occurring right now. Once the system moves in a little bit, it'll begin to weaken. The winds will turn to the west across New Orleans. That'll direct the water from Lake Pontchartrain toward the east, which is basically from whence it came back out toward the ocean. But that's going to take a long time to settle down. In a lot of the areas that have high water, that water won't drain out for days. It'll take a number of days to drain out. So the circulation here, moving onshore, the wind is improving down here in southern Louisiana. That's the good news. But it's going to continue to increase as we go northward into Mississippi. And this is direct structural damage potential. The greatest, obviously, has been here near landfall. But it's going to continue inland as the system's moving about 15 miles per hour. We can expect hurricane-force winds to extend inland as far as about 150 to 200 miles. That's a long way, and that's at least a level where significant structural damage could occur. Heather, Marshall.
All right, thank you, Steve.
We're going to take you to Covington, Louisiana now, which is north of Lake Pontchartrain. We have some fresh video in from here. In Covington is where Jeff Morrow is stationed. He's been reporting this morning. As you can see here, a tree down on the roof of a house. It has been uprooted. Heavy rain has been falling. Winds have gusted to near 100 miles per hour. And Mike Seidel is in Mobile, Alabama.
We're going to be taking you first to looking at some of the conditions that we've been seeing with this hurricane. Remember, Katrina swept across southern Florida last week as a Cat 1 hurricane, and this also killed 9 people here. The first landfall was near Miami. It had winds of 80 miles per hour. That was on August 25th.
Then it began trekking across the Gulf, and its second landfall was this morning at 6:10 Central Daylight Time. Winds at 140 miles per hour at Burris, Louisiana. That's very near to Grand Isle, Louisiana. And its third landfall is imminent.
We're going to take you now to Mobile, Alabama, and that's where Mike Seidel is standing by live. Mike, what's the latest here?
Hey, good morning, Heather and Marshall. It is about as bad as it's been all morning. Skies are getting dark again. I think we got another squall coming in. Take a look. We're looking at the Old Glory, and look at the wind whipping that flag now. These gusts are up around 60 miles an hour, 60 to 65 miles an hour. You got and the rain blowing right into you. Fortunately, we're not seeing any major structural damage, at least on this section of Interstate 65. We're just off Airport Boulevard and just a few miles north of I-10, safe from Mobile Bay. Take a look at the pictures from earlier around Dolphin Island and down towards the coast. This is where we have issues with surge and flooding. Much closer, much closer to the water there, and you can see the overwash and the waves crashing around the area. As far as inland areas concerned, the big threat right now is wind damage. We've got power out just about everywhere. There is no power on, but again, just scanning the horizon here along Interstate 65 just north of Mobile, we don't see any major structural damage, any windows blown out. Our sign here is hanging on pretty good, and that's usually a good measurement of how strong these winds are and how the damage is going. And again, so far, no transformers have been blown. We've been following these transformers all morning, and it just takes one of those wires, one of those small little thin wires, to decouple, and then there's this loud boom and explosion and like a big green flash. Unfortunately, right now, we're not seeing that. Heather Marshall?
All right, thanks, Mike. We just checked in with Nicole Mitchell, too. She says portions of I-10 in the Mobile area are closed due to flooding.
Yeah, major road in that area, certainly. You know, we're going to be talking about the inland effects here coming up over the next 24 to 48 hours and even beyond. And we continue to see this tornado threat that'll be lasting today right on through the evening hours, and you can see how it's going to be expanding northward and eastward over that amount of time.
Some of the current warnings in effect are Baldwin and Escambia counties, Baldwin in Alabama and Escambia in northwest Florida. Also George County and Mobile counties, George County in Mississippi, Mobile County in Alabama under tornado warnings. And the movement of these systems and this wind is a movement direction of about 85 miles per hour to 70 miles per hour to the north and west, because it's all wrapping around that center of circulation south of Biloxi.
You know, this rain is also going to continue extend northward as we head through the next day or so. In areas like Tennessee, you know, you too are going to find some power outages starting to show up. So it's not just going to be here along the immediate coast. It's going to continue to affect these areas as the rain and the wind starts to work northward. You'll also see the rain coming into areas like the Ohio Valley.
Exactly.
Probably not the strong winds, though.
No, but probably Tuesday night to Wednesday morning might be dealing with some flooding. We want to break in now and listen to Governor Jeb Bush in the state of Florida in that situation.
State using Softly Field as a staging area.
That's correct.
And you are bringing in travel trailers and other for what, long-term relief to the Gulf states? Or?
That's correct. We're cycling the ones that we
about ready to make a third landfall in its particular history, and it's a history of a ferocious hurricane.
Well, and keep in mind, too, that Katrina is the fourth lowest pressure ever for a hurricane in the Atlantic. This follows behind Gilbert. Some of you remember that in 1988. The Labor Day storm, too, that was back in 1935. Also Allen, and then Katrina. That shows you how strong this system is, one of the strongest hurricanes that we have seen here in the United States.
And that's comparing its pressure to the lowest pressure of each of those systems at the strength of each of those storms. Again, as Heather said, the fourth strongest. We'll take you a look at some of the impact there as we take you to Mobile, Alabama.
And you can see here the roads flooding across this area. We just had some reports coming in that parts of I-10 are actually shut down here in Mobile. I-10, of course, a major thoroughfare across this area. And you can imagine how many secondary roads and some of the side roads that are going to be shut down, and a lot of people stranded in this area, people that did not evacuate.
Now, everybody is very concerned about the New Orleans area, and we do have some reports coming in of a levee breach. We also have reports coming in of some windows out at higher elevations or the highest floors at the Sheraton Hotel and at the Hyatt Hotel, and a structural break at the Superdome. But it has not caused major problems, and we want to make sure that you understand that.
And also water has gone over the top of some of those levees too now in the New Orleans area. We want to take you now to Stephanie Abrams, and she has been in Florida enduring this system, not getting hit as hard as some other areas here in Fort Walton Beach. But still, Stephanie, I can see that wind is blowing around.
It is, and just so people can maybe put this all in perspective here, these are tropical storm force gusts, not even hurricane, just tropical storm force gusts. And it's enough to kind of lose your balance here, basically. So that's what we have been dealing with. And this is what we will be seeing here. What it looks like is we'll be having this wind into the evening hours and into the morning hours. And it looks like the bulk of the rain will be from the Florida-Alabama border west. We'll just go in and out of some of these squall lines. We really haven't seen a whole lot of rain. And those waves are still kicking up 20 to 25 feet. And we have these big sand dunes here. They're about 15 feet off the ground. And they built these because during Ivan, the whole Gulf and all this sand was on the first floor of this hotel. But now, with these sand dunes, these barriers, that is definitely helping. And they said during Dennis they had these, and it made a significant difference. And that's also blocking the Gulf of Mexico right now from making its way here. Where we don't have these sand dunes, where we just have the sea walls, you know what? That water has gone over the walls, and we actually have some flooded roadways on 98 there, and those are closed down as well. And we actually have people that have evacuated from places like Biloxi and New Orleans. They are staying here. They decided, we went through Ivan, we know what it's like. We're going to stay open. We're not going to get it that bad. We can handle this. So the entire hotel is filled with people that have evacuated, and they're riding the storm out here. We still have power. There are a few places, we spoke to the Gulf Power people, where they are seeing sporadic power outages. Our lights actually flickered just a bit, but it doesn't take very strong winds to get power outages. All you need is a branch to rip off a tree, tap one of those power lines, and boom, you could be out of power. So that's what we're dealing with here, and we'll continue to keep you updated throughout the day.
Thanks, Stephanie. We have live reports all over the areas where this Katrina is affecting people's lives. And we just listened into a press conference that Governor Jeb Bush of the state of Florida was talking to his Floridians.
Yeah, you know, he's urging people to be patient here as the crews work to restore power.
Yeah, patience is certainly...
Florida Power and Light is working quickly to ensure all customers have their power restored as soon as possible. As of 7 a.m. this morning, less than 1% of the residents of Monroe County were without power. 11
in Florida, but all across the Gulf Coast as we continue to not only see some power outages here, but extreme damage. You know, we at this point are still kind of waiting for everything to unfold, but we're hearing bits and pieces of some very serious damage in and around areas like New Orleans and Gulfport because of some flooding and also because of the strong winds.
And we want to take you north of New Orleans now. This is toward Covington, Louisiana, where Jeff Morrow filed this report just a little while ago.
Some of the strongest winds that we've seen so far. I keep saying that, but every time I do, we get another bigger gust coming from Katrina. Definitely in the western part, maybe the extreme western side of the eye wall. Winds dead out of the north right now, blowing again gusting as high as hurricane force, maybe up to about 80 miles an hour here. Definitely doing a lot of tree damage. At times, it's hard to see more than maybe a few yards because there's so much water in the air. Again, we have lost cell service here. I hope the Weather Channel will be able to pick this up. We've also, of course, been out of power here for quite some time. I hope everybody around is pretty much where they're going to be. You don't want to be out driving in these kinds of conditions. I mean, at the very least, you're risking your vehicle and your life. Again, we get these gusts coming by that just are tremendous. With all the water and leaves flying through the air, it actually hurts to stand out here because the wind's blowing so hard at times. We expect this to continue for at least maybe another half hour to maybe 45 minutes at the worst. Hopefully we can get the eye by here and things will start to calm down because some of these trees can't take much more of this. They're either going to get stripped bare by the winds or they're going to get knocked over. Jeff Morrow reporting from Covington, Louisiana, near Interstate 12.
Here's Mobile, Alabama under siege. Hurricane Katrina making it on shore this morning in Louisiana, about to make it on shore again to the north near Biloxi, Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. You're watching Your Weather Today. Uninterrupted coverage this past hour, and we'll continue to do that as necessary. I'm Marshall Cease.
And I'm Heather Tash, and we continue here as we watch Hurricane Katrina continue to press inland. One of those areas we just showed you is Mobile, and that's where Mike Seidel is standing by live. Mike, it's looking like it's getting pretty rough across this area.
Yeah, just about everybody's without power now. Take a look. We're going to try to look into the rain. This is looking off towards Mobile Bay as we get down and protect ourselves. And it's just a howling wind. It's sustained out about 45 miles an hour. We just had a couple of gusts to hurricane force up around 75. Looking in this direction again, so far so good as far as major structural damage from where we can see. Again, we're out here on an interstate. We've got this bank building, this Ford dealership. We don't see anything that's been blown out, but again, we haven't had the 100-mile-an-hour wind gust so far. Let's spin it around one more time. Take a look at the flag, and now we're looking at that Nissan sign over there. It looks like that Nissan sign is about ready to blow off. It's a wraparound, and it's come unhooked from its mooring. Let's go down to Dolphin Island now and show you what we saw. Boy, this is an area that's going to have overwash, beach erosion, inundation because of the surge issues, and you can just see what's going on down there. That's down at the Gulf. We're about 20 miles inland. The other concern now, we've got an oil tanker that's loose in Mobile Bay. Or the Mobile River in downtown Mobile. They've got 3 tugboats out there near the Cochrane Bridge. They've got 3 tugboats out there right now trying to shore things up. We've got our crew, our producer, and photographer heading down there to get pictures to show you. We don't know the extent of what's going on, but you can imagine being out on a boat in weather like this with 20 to 25-foot seas coming on shore. Now you can feel these waves of wind that just keep coming at you, a squall after squall, or you can hear that wind howling through this transformer right above me. And any moment, you know, these things can just pop and go. The power is out though, so I feel certain that we're not going to get our power on anytime real soon. Heather and Marshall, it's continuing to be as bad as it's been, but maybe not as bad as we thought it could be. Fortunately, Katrina weakened a little bit before it made landfall. We're still on the eastern side though. We still got several more hours of these very strong rain bands, and again, back in the residential areas where there are a lot of trees, no doubt trees are going down over power lines, so there's going to be cleanup issues there. Sure, the power's out, but crews have to get in and get the chainsaws out. Fortunately, the weather after tonight improves very, very quickly. The sun will be back out tomorrow. We have a sunny, dry forecast into the weekend for the cleanup. Let's shoot down here one more time towards the flag. Yeah, we got a news vehicle coming by, and you can get a sense of how Old Glory is hanging in there up on the flagpole. Out here just 3 miles north of I-10 on I-65. Heather and Marshall, we'll be here for you all day as weather permits. So far, our dish is hanging in there. We've got great truck protection, and so far we've been able to stay on the air through the brunt of it.
All right, thank you. You hang in there too, Mike.
Yeah.
And you could see the flag whipping in the wind there, still hanging on, but a lot of other areas, it's much more extensive, the damage we're seeing.
Sure is, and another area that's been affected by this too, and taking your travel hat off right now, Nicole Mitchell is also a lieutenant in the Air Force Reserve. who says Keesler is affected by this and families that live there.
Yeah, flying Katrina this weekend, we would actually fly out of Biloxi and recover to Houston because we couldn't get really safely back in. And so all those reservists that are out of there, and it's also an active duty Air Force base, a lot of training goes on there. Kind of worried what we're going to go back to in terms of the base there. A lot of people also have the homes in the area. So not only now ending this storm, but there's also another tropical depression out in the Atlantic that Bermuda needs to watch, another tropical wave behind that. So kind of going through all of that, but then continuing to fly these potential different missions that are still on the horizon. It's going to be interesting.
And Biloxi is still to be hit with the worst. That's still going to be in the next hour or so.
Yeah, it looks like they're really going to take the brunt of this storm, unfortunately. So I guess we'll see what the extent of that damage is to, as I said, the base and all those houses in the area.
Indeed, we will. Thanks, Nicole.
And certainly some areas already have gotten hit very hard. And, you know, we're only hearing bits and pieces of what's going on here, but certainly we're going to have more of what's coming out of this coming out over the next day or so as we see some of the damage.
Now here's the bottom line. First at the coast, highest surge is happening right now. This is a huge surf. Many roads and highways underwater. Inland, there's going to be hurricane force winds well inland. It's going to follow the Interstate 59 corridor, it looks like. There's been structural damage already reported in New Orleans and several other cities along the coast. Massive power outages too, and local flooding a major concern. Levee break already noted in New Orleans.
Now, earlier this morning, we've been talking with Jim Cantori. He's in Gulfport, Mississippi. His producer, Simon Temperton, is there as well with him. We're going to talk to Simon now by phone. And Simon, it sounds like you guys are getting hit pretty hard where you're located.
Heather, that's an understatement. We're going through some unbelievable conditions right now. We're actually in the Armed Forces Retirement Home here in Gulfport, and we're standing inside, and water has been seeping into the building. I'd say we had like a 20-foot at least. That much storm surge outside. It's washed all our vehicles away, our rental cars and everything else. Now water is seeping into the home here, and they've evacuating everybody to the second floor. I'd say I'm standing in like 5 or 6 inches of water, and it's all the power's out, of course, and there's a few emergency lights, but it's a very daunting prospect right now that we're facing. We can't even go outside. We're not really sure what's happening, to be honest.
Well, and Simon, you said those cars were literally washed away where you're at?
Oh, yeah, there was a satellite truck had to drive out, and he was underwater, and our rental vehicle, the water came up to the top so fast, and we tried to get a few of the cars out, but then the drivers got stuck. We had to rescue them because, you know, never drive in water, so that was really bad. And so it's a very dangerous situation we're in right now, and everyone's a little bit apprehensive, and they're evacuating everybody here in the home, like 300 or 400 residents, to the second floor.
And you've been in dangerous situations before like this with other hurricanes. How would you compare them?
You know, I've been doing this for 15 years and being Mr. Cantori's producer for many hurricanes, and I've never seen anything like this. This is probably the scariest situation we've been into. I mean, just a sudden rise of water and how fast and how it's coming to this building. You know, when we got here yesterday, they said we're good for like 27, 30 foot, and they've never seen anything like this before here. They thought that they were completely safe, you know, but now water is seeping in, and we're actually, we're not even shooting anymore. We're basically self-preservation now. We're helping the people as much as possible to put up boards and sandbags up against the doors to stop the water flooding in. You know, we've basically become part of the crew here to help them as much as possible. You know, Jim Cantori was, you know, right now he's got a board in his hand, and we're moving sandbags and everything else. And in fact, in the time I've talked to you, the water has risen probably another 3 or 4 inches. No, it's another 3 inches. It's up to the nearly the top of my boots here on the first floor.
Well, and Simon, what's so amazing about this, too, is when we talked to Jim earlier, he said you're at 27 feet above sea level, thinking you'd be very safe where you're at, and just think of how many people who are at lower elevations through here getting hit even harder.
Well, you know, we're really concerned about the people who are like stayed around where the hotel we were staying, which is probably right on the water. You know, we expand the casino that we featured as well. You know, they must be gone, but I mean, I cannot believe how much water is up here. And it wasn't just like a slow rise. Suddenly it came from nowhere, like a rushing river, and just, you know, took us all by surprise. I mean, basically, to be quite frank, we scrambled for our lives. I mean, that's what it came down to. You know, self-preservation became more important than anything else. And as I say, now we're just desperately helping the people here to shore up everything. I mean, the water just keeps on rising. The first floor is now, I'd say, like 6 inches underwater.
Simon, thanks for that report. We know you want to get back and try to help those people, too. That had to have been just an extremely scary sight to look out the window and see your cars underwater, and that's what occurred, and they thought they were out of harm's way.
Yeah, and literally being washed away. We also want to take you to another place that's getting hit too here. This is in Covington, Louisiana, where Jeff Morrow has been reporting live this morning.
And that is a live report or live video that you're seeing from Covington, Louisiana. Again, that is north of New Orleans, east of Hammond, north of Louisiana, where we have seen winds that have already gusted better than hurricane force.
Well, you know, and we've been talking too about some of the very heavy rain, and we've been talking now about some of the water that is causing some flooding. But another problem here too, the winds, which are very strong. And this is also blowing a lot of objects around here. You can see Biloxi. We're talking about a 90-mile-per-hour wind gust. And we've had reports there in and around New Orleans and some other areas where it's been even stronger than that. And with this, you're going to find a lot of objects such as siding blowing through the air. And this, of course, is going to be hitting homes, and it's going to be damaging windows. All sorts of damage can be caused by these objects flying around.
Now, we're only at the beginning of the damage, unfortunately, as this moves along the coast and moves northward along the interstate, what looks to be the Interstate 59 corridor, and perhaps several hundred miles to the east and
Are joined by Stephanie Abrams. And Stephanie, it seems like the wind has been picking up this morning quite a bit. What type of winds do you think are blowing there right now?
Well, we've gotten a sustained wind around 30 miles per hour, gusting to around 40, 46. Now, 30 miles per hour, that's not even tropical storm force winds. Tropical storm force winds go from 39 to 74. So we're gusting into tropical storm force winds. So you can only imagine. I heard Jim Cantori and Simon Temperton talking about what they're dealing with. And so this is what our picture looks like. Just imagine what their picture looks like. Just terrible destruction going on right now in Gulfport, Mississippi. We're actually standing on a sand dune that's protecting us from the Gulf of Mexico here. And imagine the brunt of that Category 4 and what that water would be like rushing all the way up here. Of course, it would take out the sand dunes and we would see some major problems here. Now, we don't have major problems, and that's the good news, but Governor Jeb Bush is still urging people to be on guard. As he mentioned, those generators, you have to be careful with the generators. Here, we have to be careful about this sand that's blowing here. It doesn't feel so good. It's covering some of the roadways. Some water's covering the roadways. Where they don't have dunes like this, the water is just coming up and splashing right over the seawalls. So that's why we're seeing the problems there. We're also under a tornado watch until noon. And the reason why is because you get these bands coming in off the ocean, and the ocean's very smooth. The water can go very quickly over a smooth area. Think like driving on the highway and you have a smooth road. You can go a lot faster than if you're off-roading and it's very bumpy. So the upper level winds come in and they can still stay smooth because it doesn't interact with the ground. But once you have the winds both coming in smooth and then the top winds continue to go smooth and the bottom winds hit that ground, you get a rotation, and that can spawn off some tornadoes. So we are concerned about the tornado threat here. We aren't really going to have to worry about the rain here in Fort Walton. The rain's basically the Alabama-Florida border and west. That's where we are seeing the heaviest of rain. Just wind like this as we head into the evening hours and into the early morning hours. But for the most part, hey, we're very fortunate here relative to what's happening west of us. The power isn't out. They've seen a few sporadic power outages, as you can imagine, but overall, this is what we're dealing with, and this is what we will continue to deal with as we head throughout the next several hours here in Fort Walton Beach. And everybody's safe here, so that's good news. We actually, Marshall and Heather, have a lot of people that evacuated from Louisiana and Mississippi and have come here to ride out the storm. And we've spoken to a couple of people who have their houses right on the Gulf. And so they're definitely concerned about their property.
Yeah, indeed they would be. Thanks, Stephanie.
And certainly the concerns are far greater as we travel west of this area. You know, one place where we've seen some big problems is in Covington, where you can see some of the water covering the roads here. This is where Jeff Morrow has been reporting this morning, and just look at how strong some of the winds are blowing here. That rain literally coming down sideways across this region.
Now, that's north of New Orleans, and it is getting the brunt of Katrina now as Katrina continues its movement to the north. It's still moving at about 15 miles per hour, its latest coordinates place it at about 35 miles east-northeast now of New Orleans. 125 mile per hour winds around the center of circulation. Barometric pressure up just a couple to 927 millibars. That's the latest report on Hurricane Katrina.
And we want to get the latest information now on what's happening with our hurricane expert. Of course, that's Dr. Steve Lyons. Steve?
We're seeing another landfall, and this is in very close to Ansley, Mississippi. Right here, the hurricane is coming onshore there, and with it, it's bringing all the strong surge along the Mississippi coastline, and that's going to continue the next 2 to 3 hours, and then the water will slowly subside. Now, the water rises we've seen and the levee breaks we've seen in New Orleans are another problem. Once that water gets into the city, it's underwater. I mean, it's below sea level, and so the water has to be pumped out. It doesn't drain out. And that can be a very long ordeal if the water is in the city. So we're not sure what the extent of that is, but we're still worried about that. And right now, the north flow on the Lake Pontchartrain is about at a maximum. And so that's going to be the potential for any levee system topping would be about now or within the next hour or so, and then it's going to start to dwindle a little bit. In the meantime, the water rises along the Florida coastline and the Alabama coastline are associated with the onshore flow of the wind, plus the breaking wave action, which we call wave setup. And that's causing the waves to be much higher than normal along the coast, obviously, 20 to 25 feet. Matter of fact, offshore, they've been reported as high as 45 to 50 feet, but a lot of those waves are a mixture of wave conditions that aren't going to reach the coast. We're looking only at about 25 to 35 feet along the coast, and that's going to dwindle as the circulation moves inland. So there's a wave action we expect along the coastline, even though we have higher waves offshore that would be absolutely treacherous if they made it onshore. They're not going to. Now let's look at a couple of other features of particular interest. This is the radar image, and you can see the circulation moving inland. There's still a very strong core of winds here on the north quadrant moving right through Slidell, Louisiana, and now it looks like New Orleans, the eye wall is starting to pull away from you, so the wind should be dropping away a little bit, slowly but steadily. That doesn't mean it's going to be fine weather out there by any means, because we'll have tropical storm conditions all the way down in this area. So you're going to have some strong winds, but the very strong over 100 mile per hour wind gusts we had reported in the eastern portions of New Orleans should be abating either now or within an hour or so. The strongest winds are in this eye wall right here that are coming into Biloxi, Gulfport, Waveland, and down toward Ansley, where the circulation is making that landfall. And that's where the highest surge is occurring right now. Now, what about the rainfall potential here? We do have significant rainfall potential, and notice these big, bright purple areas forming around the circulation. It's a very strong circulation, and so it's going to continue to build those things, and we've seen already a lot of heavy rain in the greater New Orleans area. That's a whole other problem, is pumping that water out of New Orleans from the rain action. The good news is it's moving north at about 15 miles per hour, so we expect that to abate in the next 6 to 12 hours. Heather, Marshall?
Thanks, Dr. Lyons. And within that circulation, we have a tornado warning. It's in effect for Washington Parish, St. Tammany Parish, and Pearl River County and Hancock counties in Mississippi and Louisiana for conditions just right for F0 and F1 tornadoes.
Well, and keep in mind that Katrina swept across South Florida last week. It was a Category 1 hurricane at the time, and Mike Seidel was there at the Sanibel area, the Marco Island region of Florida, and we're going to bring him in now. Now he's in Mobile, Alabama. Now we're dealing with a Category 4 hurricane. Mike, can you compare what you experienced last week with this hurricane versus right now?
Yeah, it's a lot worse, obviously. We just barely got brushed at Marco. Took the 12-hour drive over here. What I want to show you is what we do when we get to a location. Of course, it's all about the weather, but it's all about protecting ourselves, which we did, pulling away from the area in the surge, but also protecting our satellite truck. If you see that dish right, that's our satellite truck. That's how we broadcast. We send the signal up to the satellite. It comes down to the Weather Channel. Then we send it back up and down to your cable company or the dish. But that is being protected by this hotel. We got to put it just in the right place. And so far, we've done pretty good, even with hurricane-force wind gusts. Let's go out. Let's try to take a walk out to the road. We'll get back into the heat of the action. And this is the kind of debris we've seen so far. Just some small twigs right here. But no doubt inland, we probably had some trees come down because power is out everywhere. We'll walk out to Interstate 65, the major route. Remember, 65 was used back during Dennis as an escape route. They turned it around one way northbound up towards Montgomery. We're about 3 miles from of the I-10 interchange. So we're pretty far inland from the Gulf by about 25 or 30 miles from Dauphin Island. Okay, we've got a few cars out here. We're not in the worst of the weather right now. A few cars, they're going southbound. And let's look back towards Mobile. The flag is still getting ripped, but notice all these hotel signs have come through it so far so good with these gusts up there in the 70s to near 80, but still a lot of rain. We've been watching that wraparound sign, the Pat Peck Nissan sign. You can see how that's come unattached from its moorings. But other than that, no concern right now with serious structural damage where we are. Again, this is our vantage point. The other thing we want to update you on is that oil rig, that tanker on the Mobile River downtown by the Cochrane Bridge. Remember, about 2 hours ago, it came loose from its mooring. You can imagine the concerns. Well, they got 3 tugboats out there, and we just heard from the county commissioners that they have gotten it back and tied it down. They still don't know if there was an oil leak out there in the water. They're going to have to investigate that, but at least they've got that rig and tanker tied down. We're just bearing the brunt of it right now. Again, not nearly as bad as over in Pascagoula, because he's obviously much closer to the coast than we are. Heather and Marshall, the wind is still howling here. Just when you think it's abating, it comes back and hits you right in the back. These east to southeast winds coming right at you off the Gulf of Mexico. Look at the flag now. Look at those trees up there. It's pretty nasty. This is about as bad as you want to be out in as far as a reporter. If it gets any stronger, my A-frame will be heading up towards Montgomery on I-65.
All right, well, stay safe, Mike, and obviously breaking up somewhat, too, because of the conditions there that he is facing.
Yeah, you can see how rapidly they're deteriorating as we take you to Fort Walton Beach. It is getting darker by the second. You have a very sinister-looking sky and waves, furious, sitting out there, and it is also washed over Highway 98 in some locations. That highway is closed in some locations at Fort Walton Beach, an area where many people from New Orleans went to get away from the storm.
The Gulf, of course, in a frenzy here because of all the rough conditions with this hurricane passing through. You can see some of the winds here, some of the latest gusts that we have been seeing. You know, areas like Biloxi around 90, Mobile gusts up to 71 through here. Keep in mind, too, that some of the areas hit the hardest are not going to be reporting because they're having problems getting their signals out, and the reporting stations, in many cases, are not able to function under these conditions.
Now, the new vortex message from the reconnaissance aircraft hurricane hunters indicating 927 millibars, perhaps with the eye wall opening up a bit to the southwest. You see here on the radar and on the latest advisory, this is the 10 o'clock advisory. It puts it moving northward at 16 miles per hour. It has picked up its speed a little bit, Hurricane Katrina, but winds still 125 miles per hour around the center of circulation. 35 miles east-northeast of New Orleans, Louisiana. That is the latest advisory.
You know, and it shows you how bad this hurricane is when actually advice here from some people at the National Weather Service and other locations, they were actually telling people to bring tools with them to make an emergency exit in case the water started rising too high. And earlier we were talking to Jim Cantori and also his producer, Simon Temperton, and telling how in the building they're in, which is 27 feet above sea level, how the water is rising there. We're seeing also probably a lot of problems like this in the New Orleans area, and yet a lot of that information is not coming in yet.
All right, we're going to check on that bottom line for you now. This is as of 11 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, 10 o'clock Central Daylight Time. On the coast, the highest surge is happening as we speak. As Heather mentioned, Simon Temperton, Jim Cantori having to try to get to the second floor of a retirement home where they have been reporting from. It is 27 feet above sea level. Inland, there'll be hurricane-force winds well inland. Structural damage expected. Massive power outages as well. Mississippi and Alabama northward through Tennessee and then later into the Ohio River Valley.
We were showing you Covington earlier. We want to take you now to a report with Jeff Morrow.
Just when you think Hurricane Katrina is just about over with, it throws another huge batch of wind and rain at you. We're still getting some very, very strong northerly winds on the western side of the eye as it passes by about 50 to 60 miles to our east from what we can tell. Again, the ground kind of littered with debris behind me. Some trees have been knocked over. Across the way there is a Home Depot. We're going to walk here a little bit as much as I can and try to give you some perspective of what we're dealing with here. Again, let's look down here. You can see how the trees have just completely got blown over. And again, if I start running here, it's because the wind's kind of helping me along here just a little bit. Again, branches snapped off and pushed along, and this tree's been uprooted here beside us. And a bigger tree across the way over toward the Comfort Inn has also come down and snapped in half there. Again, this has been going on for about 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours. And again, until we can finally get that eye to continue to move inland, it's going to continue to be strong here. I guess it will slowly wind down as we head on through the afternoon. But again, we're still getting pounded here by the western side and supposedly the weakest side of Katrina. Again, just pounding, pelting rain. It's going to be a little while before we can completely get out and about and assess all the damage. Jeff Morrow reporting from Covington, Louisiana.
Well, thank you, Jeff, and thank you for joining us this morning, and we certainly hope that you are staying safe.
Indeed, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. We'll have continuing coverage on Hurricane Katrina and its inland impacts, as well as the impacts along the coast. Bill Keneally, Kelly Cass, they're up next. They'll keep you covered on the next couple of hours.
To our continuing coverage of Hurricane Katrina, which is still a very dangerous storm. Even though it did weaken slightly at landfall, it's still causing an awful lot of problems out there.
And Kelly, it is coming ashore now, making that second final landfall right there on the Mississippi and Louisiana border. And it looks like from here on out there should be substantial weakening, but I tell you what, it has been an incredible last 6 hours. There is the track pretty much now due north, and looking at the observations, it has gone almost a full degree north of latitude, going right up that longitudinal line, and now the wind is starting to come around in the city of New Orleans, turning more to the southwest.
We have reports of widespread flooding that is going on now, just a significant water rise going on here, especially in St. Bernard Parish. We're being told that it's really difficult getting to some of the folks that are asking to be rescued because the wind has still been too strong, and that would put the authorities at risk as well. We have reports of lots of structural damage in and around that area as well, and it just continues to be pounded by the heavy rain, and of course the water rise is still with us as well.
And once again, Kelly, this is our picture from the areas in Covington, Louisiana. This is up north of Lake Pontchartrain, up near where Jeff is. We saw that report that he filed on tape a minute ago, catching really the brunt of that action now in Covington. And the wind out there in Covington is starting to back around now, which had been more of an east wind, then it goes north and eventually turning northwest, but still getting raked right there in that eye wall.
Yeah, Jeff Morrow's been reporting live from that area, and I tell you what, he's been having some difficulty just trying to stand up straight in that kind of wind. Our storm tracker, Jim Cantori, is also in Gulfport, Mississippi. We hope to have a live report with him, but we want to first go to Mike Seidel, who joins us live now from Mobile, Alabama. And Mike, we can see the hood is up, and you are barely standing up, too. How is it out there?
Wow, this is, you know, this is it right now. We're getting the worst of the weather. That gust had to be up above hurricane force. It is just raking my back. Boy, it just feels like it's stinging. It's like being out on the beach. Let's look over towards the flight. Look how these power lines are just waving back and forth. The transformer's hanging on, but most of the power is out. The power continues to be out. Keep an eye on those power transformers. Whoa! Now, let's turn around. Look this way. You can hear the wind howling. We're looking across the street now. You can get a sense of the trees looking now back up 65. We still don't see any windows blown out on the bank building, and these signs, they're still hanging in. Let's turn back around this way again because we're looking right into the wind, see if we can see anything. Oh, okay. Check out the sign there. We talked about that wraparound billboard, and look, it's been ripped to shreds. This last gust has taken care of that one. You can forget that, baby. This sign over here, this Treadwell Ford sign, is doing okay. Boy, that stings. But this This band right now, Marshall and Heather, is about as bad as we've seen all morning. And fortunately, we're still able to get a picture out. We've got some good truck protection. Just keeping an eye out for flying debris. Fortunately, there's not a lot of trees around here, so we just watch out for these power lines. Woo, and these signs. Hardly anybody out on the roadway. And by the way, I wanted to update you again on that situation down on the Mobile River. Now we get a bit of a lull here. The oil tanker, which ripped from its moorings, they've got that shored up now with 3 tugboats. Took them a while. We still don't know if there's been any kind of oil leakage into the water there, but you can imagine how rough the Mobile Bay is and the surge flood concerns. That's why we pulled back yesterday afternoon to higher ground. We're a good 5 or 6 miles from the water. Let's spin around one more time, and you see the sign. Not anything new to show you in the past couple of minutes, but just feel you can maybe live vicariously through the camera and the TV of what it's like to be out during hurricane-force wind gusts. Once they get any higher, I can't really stand up. I've got to hold on to something, but you get a brief break, and then all of a sudden, boom, it just hits you. Marshall and Heather, we're here. We're hanging out. Man, yeah, no matter how little sleep you get, how many days you're on the road, when you get into this kind of weather, at least personally, the adrenaline just starts rushing, and it feels like you could go forever. As long as that rain and wind keeps blowing. As soon as the rain and wind stops, then you start to lose that adrenaline rush. But get a sense. One lone car here, and you can see how poor the visibility is. I can't believe people are out riding around a day like today. Maybe some people just trying to get farther north and east out of this mess, because as they head towards Montgomery and Birmingham, it's not going to be as bad as here. We'll throw it back to you. We'll hang out here on the street here on the frontage road along I-65. We're just, again, 3 miles north of Interstate 10 here in Mobile County, Alabama.
Mike, again, this is Bill and Kelly now, clarifying you're north of Interstate 10. How far are you off of Mobile Bay, and how far north of you off of the Gulf of Mexico?
Woo! Let's do another timestamp. Let's do another timestamp.
Okay.
Okay, I think he's having difficulty hearing us, obviously. He's having some rough weather there, that's for sure.
Yeah, the right front quadrant coming into play there, Kelly. Those winds are even stronger now than they were an hour ago.
Take a look at our bottom line now. Along the coast, the highest surge is happening right now as we speak. But further inland, hurricane-force winds are also being felt.
And Kelly, we're talking about cities east of Jackson, Mississippi, the Hattiesburg area, Meridian, Mississippi, and there is your center point on the hurricane as of the 10 o'clock advisory. Okay, there we go. And there it is at 125 miles per hour. Still a very strong Category 3 hurricane. The movement now north is 16 miles an hour. And I mentioned east of Jackson there, so Meridian, Laurel, Hattiesburg, those are the primary cities that'll get hit very hard in southeastern Mississippi.
Tell you what, even as far east as the panhandle of Florida, we're experiencing some serious beach erosion, and we've got Stephanie Abrams joining us live now from Fort Walton Beach. And Steph, have you been getting much of the rain? I know you're certainly experiencing the wind, but what about your rainfall there?
No, Kelly, the rain hasn't been that bad, I must admit. We get little spritzes here and there, and the winds sustained below tropical storm force, and then we do get some gusts around the mid-40 range is about how high we've gotten those gusts. And tropical storm force winds 39 to 74 miles per hour, and above that, of course, hurricane strength winds. We are getting a southeast flow. The storm rotates counterclockwise. We are on the east side, so we're going to get that southeast wind here, and that, of course, is roughing up the Gulf. Have a look at these pictures here, and you're asking about the beach erosion. Fortunately, they have built some dunes here. They learned very well from Ivan. They didn't have the dunes for Ivan, and all this sand and water was in the bottom floor. They actually told me a story that in the bottom floor there's so much sand they had to kind of duck down and creep down to be in the room. So they learned their lesson. They built these dunes, put some sea oats to really firm it up in there. And Dennis, it was a success. In Dennis, they didn't have any problems. And with this storm, seeing that we're not feeling the full brunt of it, it's helping as well. And what happens with all the coast here, all on the Gulf Coast, the water comes in and then it pulls a lot of that sand back out to sea. So what will happen is, with the erosion along the coast here, is sandbars will form in the Gulf. And then what they'll do is they'll pump that sand back on shore to replenish those beaches. That's what they did in Gulf Shores, Alabama. Then they build the dunes up and they plant some of those sea oats, and that will help firm down those dunes. So we will be seeing significant beach erosion here. We're seeing our waves 20 to 25 feet. And basically, this is all we'll have to deal with, and I just can't imagine what they're going through. I heard Jim Cantori talking on the phone a while ago, and they're getting it pretty bad there. We're very fortunate here, but we have a lot of their residents here, and they're staying here. The power has been good. It's been staying on a little sporadic here and there, but some of the roads are washed over with the ocean where they don't have the dunes, just maybe a little bit of a wall. Bill and Kaylee, what happens is all that water, boop, right over and onto the roadways. So I have a feeling that some of the folks from Mississippi and Louisiana are going to be stuck here for several days because those roads are going to be washed out.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, for that live report. I understand a lot of the evacuees from Louisiana, Mississippi are where you are, Steph, and just what you're experiencing there, they've got to believe that, man, this is much better than what they could have been going through back home.
But again, the expanse of this hurricane, the flight level wind now reporting the top winds at 120 knots out there in that eastern quadrant, which is safe to say covering up part of the Florida Panhandle.
The other threat with a landfalling tropical system, the threat of tornadoes, and we have several tornado warnings in effect for southern Mississippi.
Yeah, Kelly, in the path, including Lumberton and Columbia, seek shelter immediately.
4 other counties to mention in southeastern Mississippi: George County, Stone, Perry, and Greene counties also under tornado warnings until the top of the hour, presently moving northward at 14 miles an hour. And by the way, in this special statement from the National Hurricane Center, or from the National Weather Service, the onset of destructive winds with gusts of 100 to 120 miles per hour will begin soon. So not only are we dealing with the threat of tornadoes, but that actual strong wind associated with the eye wall of Katrina.
And Dr. Lyons is here now. And Dr. Lyons, I know that is coming ashore, but there is going to be a storm surge issue for a good while to come. How much longer will folks east of that track have to deal with that surge?
Well, it's going to be a water rise for a long time. It's not going to go back to normal until the winds back away, and those winds are going to be onshore for at least another 24 hours. So the water will be above average for 24 hours. The very high surge will slowly go down within the next 6 hours, 4 to 6 hours in most of the locations, except in New Orleans, where you have to pump the water out if the water's gotten in there. Now, here's the latest advisory from the Hurricane Center: 125-mile-per-hour winds moving north at 16. That forward speed of motion is a positive thing in some ways. One, it makes the overall event last shorter in any given location, and 2, it keeps the rainfall totals lower if the system keeps moving at a fairly decent speed, and we think that's going to continue inland. Even though we're going to get some significant flooding and heavy rain, it would be much worse if we were moving a lot slower. Okay, it's making a second landfall right on the Louisiana-Mississippi border here, just to the northeast of Slidell, Louisiana, and it looks like the winds over New Orleans and off to the southeast are dying down quite a bit and turning around now to the west or west-northwest. The strongest winds are in Mississippi now, and theirs is going to be starting to move inland. You can see here's Biloxi here, down here near past Christiane. That's where they got one of the highest surge areas of all, waveland as well. Right in there, it looks like the surge could have been at least as high as 22 feet, and it could be as high as 27 feet. We're not exactly certain, but based on our live shots, it could have been even higher than Hurricane Camille. It could have set a record. That's unconfirmed right now, though. In the meantime, on the far side over here, we got some very strong winds coming out of the south into the Mobile area, and some of the highest wave action so far in the circulation is coming onshore now. The reason for that, before the winds were out of the east and the wave action was directed offshore. Now all the wave action is coming right onshore, and some of our highest water rises of the entire storm system are occurring right now in the Alabama, western Florida Panhandle. They should subside fairly quickly as the circulation center moves inland and the wind action starts to slow down a little bit out here. But the waves will be above average for at least another 24 hours in the Gulf of Mexico and on the coast of Florida and Alabama, and also all the way over to Louisiana and Mississippi. Let's look at a couple of other things of interest in particular. Here's a projected path that goes into Mississippi and then northward. It's going to become an extratropical system eventually. The good news is we have it moving at a fairly decent forward speed. We don't see it stopping, so we don't expect any major inland flooding event. But the winds are very strong, and that's going to carry some strong damaging winds and power outage potential inland over the next few days. Here's the wave action out there. These will start to abate later this afternoon to below 25 feet and then drop rather dramatically tonight as the system moves inland. The direct structural damage impact highest in this area. Once it gets inland here, it's going to start to weaken rather quickly, but there's still potential for some structure damage all the way into central Mississippi and extreme eastern portions of Alabama, western portions of Alabama the next 24 hours. The threat also for farther inland is going to be power outage threat, and this is only through this evening, but we're going to be expanding this cone, at least the yellow portion of the cone, where it's possible for power outages farther north as the system moves inland, because it's going to carry some tropical storm winds inland at least 300 miles with this system. Bill, Kelly.
Steve, I want to ask you a quick question. Are we experiencing the worst of Katrina right now at this moment?
It depends on where you are. In the Florida Panhandle in Alabama, probably yes, and it'll be subsiding quickly. In New Orleans, it's already passed. In Mississippi, portions of it have probably already peaked and are just about to go down. So it's going to improve quickly, but the worst impact is probably over in many of the locations.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Lyons. So while it's going to eventually improve along the coastline, it's only going to get worse for others further down the road.
And we want to go back now to the Mobile area in Alabama along Interstate 65. Mike Seidel joining us now. Mike, I know you're well to the right of the projected track, but how bad is it out there in that right front quadrant?
Well, it's certainly not as bad as over in Biloxi and Pascagoula. Of course, they're along the coast. They have the surge issues. But we just found out that a lot of downtown Mobile is underwater. Mobile Bay has backed up into the downtown area. The Battlefield Memorial Parkway is underwater. That whole area around the USS Alabama is flooded. That was expected. They flooded out during George and also during Frederick. Frederick right now holds the top on a surge of 12 to 13 feet, even higher than Camille. Camille was a smaller storm geographically than this one. So we've got flooding. Tanker moored up. Again, we don't know if any oil leaked into the river or the bay at this point. 10 is shut down there, and also the causeway. I'm sure that's underwater, and all those businesses are going to come back to, if it's anything like they've seen in the past with Camille and Frederick, they may not. Well, obviously, they won't be able to open. There's going to be a lot of water damage. That whole area gets inundated, and the water breaches from the river over towards the bay. Let's take a look now. We've seen some corrugated aluminum get blown off this Ford dealership. We saw that happen between shots. So far, the Regent's Bank, we don't see any windows blown out there. Some of these gusts had to be over 80 miles an hour because I can barely stand up when we get hit hard. Let's look back over here again. The wraparound billboard has been ripped to shreds. Looking now back down towards 85. One lone car coming at us. I'm sorry, I-65 coming at us. There's the flag hanging in there. And again, get a look at the swaying power lines. We had one line over there arc about 3 hours ago, and it sounded like an explosion. It was just one little arc of a power line. But since then, we haven't seen any flashes. As you can imagine, the power is out across a wide area. Then I guess you can get a sense when those winds get up above 60 miles an hour, you can just hear the wind howling through these telephone poles. Let's take a, whoa, let's turn back around here. Oh, gosh, I tell you what, it stings. It's like a sleet storm in the wintertime. We'll look back, and you know, I don't see anything else down there that's blowing our way. But again, these telephone poles are wavering. I'm not sure what's going to happen with those. And once again, we're just, Heather Marshall, we're just hanging out and waiting to see how much longer this lasts. You know, several more hours. But this is the worst of it. I don't know if you can hear the wind howling, but it is just ripping through here, right up I-65. And again, just found out that downtown Mobile has had some serious flooding. Water as deep as a couple of feet. And Bill and Kelly, I apologize. I forgot there was a shift change. I lost track of all time. I know it's daytime, and I think it's Monday.
Hey, Mike, I think you just said that the downtown Mobile area was flooded. How far are you from that area?
We're about 7 miles. It's about 3 miles to I-10, and then about 4 or 5 miles and change, don't quote me, down to Mobile and the tunnels. The tunnels are shut down, obviously. They closed those down. They're concerned about surge. And so we're far enough away. We were there yesterday, and we said, hey, Dr. Steve was predicting. And with that kind of surge, flooding was expected as far west as Broad Street. That's about a mile inland, and all the hotels down there would be in that flood-prone area. We didn't want to take a chance on ourselves and our satellite truck. That's the only way we can get pictures out. So we've got our truck protected. We can spin around one more time. Bill and Kelly and Shay, you can see our truck dish there, and we've backed the truck up against this Hampton Inn. That's given us superior protection. Even with wind gusts over 80 miles an hour, you may see a few what we call digital hits in the business. My picture may freeze up at times. My audio continues. But other than that, we've been so far so good. I thought that when I came over here, I said I'm going to get every live shot out of here. I thought it was going to be a pipe dream, but we've been fortunate so far as another squall comes ripping up I-65. I can't believe some of these signs are holding this. They're well constructed. Bill, Kelly.
Amazing.
All right. Thank you, Mike Slidell. We'll be back to you. Stay safe there. Put it in perspective here. He's about 80 miles, Kelly, to the east-northeast of that eastern eye wall, and confirmation nearby, 84-mile-per-hour wind in the past hour at the downtown Mobile airport.
You know who's been a little bit closer to the actual eye itself is Jeff Morrow, and he filed this report from Covington, Mississippi just a short while ago.
Just when you think Hurricane Katrina is just about over with, it throws another huge batch of wind and rain at you. We're still getting some very, very strong northerly winds on the western side of the eye as it passes by about 50 to 60 miles to our east from what we can tell. Again, the ground kind of littered with debris behind me. Some trees have been knocked over. Across the way there is a Home Depot. We're going to walk here a little bit as much as I can and try to give you some perspective of what we're dealing with here. Again, let's look down here. You can see how the trees have just completely got blown over. And again, if I start running here, it's because the wind's kind of helping me along here just a little bit. Again, branches snapped off and pushed along, and this tree's been uprooted here beside us. And a bigger tree across the way over toward the Comfort Inn has also come down and snapped in half there. Again, this has been going on for about 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours. And again, until we can finally get that eye to continue to move inland, it's going to continue to be strong here. I guess it will slowly wind down as we head on through the afternoon. But again, we're still getting pounded here by the western side and supposedly the weakest side of Katrina. Again, just pounding, pelting rain. It's going to be a little while before we can completely get out and about and assess all the damage. Jeff Morrow reporting from Covington, Louisiana.
Wow, and that is supposedly in the weaker side of the storm. Again, Jeff Morrow reporting from Covington, Louisiana, right near landfall.
Kelly, right now about 6 counties in Mississippi under a tornado warning, and Dr. Forbes is here, our severe weather expert. And Dr. Forbes, I know these storms are racing northeast. Where are they headed next?
Well, we're going to have 2 types of tornadoes today. The ones that are in these eye wall bands, the little swirls spin up very quickly. Then in thunderstorms that form out in the sunnier skies out on the fringe, additional tornadoes. Right now, they're all in these bands. Very quick circulations develop there as they push across the eastern half, the southeastern quarter of Mississippi. Now let's switch sources. We'll see the additional threat. If we can go to Weather Pro 3, we'll see the additional threat for, here we go. This morning we could have additional bands form off to the east, farther to the east in some of the sunny skies and some of these rain bands. And then before the evening is out, get into the early nighttime hours, we could have tornadoes develop across the parts of Alabama, up into the Birmingham area, perhaps even as far east as the Atlanta area and up into the Chattanooga area by evening. As very strong winds aloft, and then the afternoon heating lets things get quite unstable. You see partly cloudy skies, some sun breaking through over across Georgia and eastern parts of Alabama. Then we have just the very strong winds.
Would be capable of tornadoes, is what you're saying?
That's right, and that was just through tomorrow, through today. Tomorrow we'll have some tornado threat up in parts of Tennessee, Kentucky, and perhaps even a little bit farther north than that.
All right, staying busy around here, that's for sure.
That
Thank
energy
you,
is going to be around a good while, Kelly, as it comes on in and spins on down slowly. I want to take you now back into Mississippi, and I understand Jim Cantori has been scrambling all morning out there in the Gulfport area.
I think he joins us now over the phone. Jim, how are you holding up out there?
Well, we're doing okay out here, guys. Of course, now it's just not me holding up. It's the crew, and we're obviously a big part of the over 500 United States veterans that are out here at the retirement home here in Gulfport, Mississippi. So what we've been doing is trying to get medications. We've been trying to get wheelchairs. We've been trying to get everything we can, bedding up to higher ground and get it out of harm's way. And that's, you know, the good news is we've done that. We've accomplished that. Everybody's off the first floor right now. But as I look out this window, I'm in complete amazement. I mean, think about what it's like, guys, in the fall when a tree is completely defoliated. Now, of course, as you know, it's August, and we're talking about trees that should have leaves on them and covered with leaves. They've been stripped of their leaves because of the wind. Huge branches broken off. I see the trash cans floating by. I see dumpsters floating by. Occasionally, a top of a car. There is at least 10 feet of water surrounding this building right now. And to let you know, preliminarily, when we were thinking about using this area, we knew that we were sitting at 27 feet above sea level. So do the math. and the kind of flooding that we're dealt with the casinos on the coast, everyone who lived right on the beach with their homes, their businesses, have got to be completely underwater right now and taking on tremendous wave action from this particular storm. We're still on the east side of it. I mean, we got due south winds right now, Bill, and you know, it's howling so bad out there that the building is breathing.
Jim, I have a question for you. Is still there?
Yes, sir.
I wanted to know exactly how far off of the beach are you, and is there wave action with that very high water, too?
We're going to get the answer to that question coming up next.
Trips. Full house. Live reports from the field, weather experts, meteorologists, and hurricane hunters telling you what's happening, why it's happening, and what's next. The Weather Channel, Hurricane Central. The Weather Channel, Hurricane Central. Coming up, the latest on Katrina. But now, you're local on the 8s.
This is Mike Seidel live in Mobile, Alabama, as the worst of Hurricane Katrina is rolling on through southern Alabama right now. We're getting wind gusts close to 90 miles an hour. We'll keep you updated as long as we can stay on the air from Mobile. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Welcome back to our continuing storm alert coverage of Hurricane Katrina, which is now making its second landfall right near the Louisiana-Mississippi border. I'm Kelly Cass.
And I'm Bill Keneally. Still a very strong Category 3 hurricane, top winds at 125 miles per hour there in the eye wall. Jim Cantori, he is just to the east of the eye wall, not very far though, in Gulfport. And Jim, I want to resume that conversation. You're saying there's 10 feet of water around the building you're in. How far off of the beachfront are you actually?
A half mile approximately. A half mile. We're 27 feet up, a half mile from the beach.
That is amazing. Jim, how quickly did that water come up?
Well, you know, when it first started coming up, it took about 10 minutes for the first 4 feet, and then it slowly started rising. And then, you know, as we got into this eastern eye wall here, it's just continued to come up. We've had to evacuate the entire first floor of this retirement home. Okay, you're talking about 300-400 people. There were beds down there. People were, you know, on medications and whatnot. We had to get all those trays and bedding, and of course their equipment up here as we got them up first and their equipment. But you know, guys, I'm telling you, I've just never seen anything like this in my life. I mean, we're surrounded by water right now. The Gulf of Mexico has come inland. And no question, it means business. I mean, the winds are howling out there. They're taking off pieces of air conditioning. I hear aluminum fascia just flying around out there, just whipping by me at speeds where my eye can hardly even keep up with them. Trees are stripped from their leaves, and cars are just floating around on what would be kind of a grassy area that people just stroll onto.
Jim, I have a question for you. If what you're saying is true, this could be a record water rise that could even surpass what happened with Camille. You're talking about 27 feet of water. How do you know that?
I was told by the director of the building that, according to the engineers, this area sits at 27 feet above sea level. All right? And, you know, there are even some places, obviously, that are even higher than that. So we felt pretty comfortable in that regard, especially given the fact this is a concrete building. We said, you know, guys, I'd rather be in this than be in a wood and stucco hotel, even a mile or 3 or 4 inland. And so that's the option that we took. Now, as far as the surge is concerned, again, yeah, that is what we totally underestimated, no question. But we are safe right now. We feel pretty safe inside here. And this is where we're going to obviously stay until further notice.
And this is Bill. I wanted to ask you, that building, how long has it been there, and has it been there since Hurricane Camille? And if so, how does that compare to what happened then?
Bill, it has not been here since Hurricane Camille. I'm not exactly sure when it was built. I'm sure I was told last night, but forgive me for forgetting that. But, you know, it's one of these structures that's built to code. I mean, the windows, I was talking to the director last night. I said, Jim, these windows are going to withstand 180 miles an hour. And some of them have crashed in. And then, you know, yeah, 180 miles an hour is one thing, but when you have debris such as a tree limb or something else that crashes into a window, that's a whole different story. And that's what we've seen here. A couple of these windows have come in. But, guys, again, the whole first floor of this building is now completely underwater as we speak.
Wow. Well, we're glad that you're in a safe spot, Jim. I hear a lot of folks talking around you, so thank God you're all okay.
All right, Jim, we'll be back with you periodically. Again, please stay safe there. An amazing sight. I'm guessing just what, not even a half a mile in off of the Gulf of Mexico.
And this just in, the mayor mayor, I believe, of New Orleans is going to be holding a news conference, I believe, at noon local time, and we'll be getting more information. Of course, New Orleans also being battered by the storm, even as we speak, so the worst is not done yet.
Yeah, reports of some breaches of levees there, Kelly, just on the eastern side of Orleans Parish. And again, this is a really serious... Okay, again, we've had reports also of even the gas refineries down there, major refineries, may be suffering severe damage.
And check this out. We're looking at a house that's the only thing keeping this tree up. Katrina's 100-mile-an-hour winds toppled this tree in Covington, Louisiana. Again, this is where Jeff Morrow's been reporting from. The roots just plucked from the ground, and much more rain is expected throughout the morning. Just a mess out there.
And Kelly, long before they had I-10, they had US 90. This is the route, the old route from New Orleans all the way over to Mobile. This is US 90 in the Gulfport area, and look at all that water. And once again, we've had reports of that water flooding that roadway in many, many cases, all the way from really about Slidell all the way well across Mississippi, which is just inland. That road parallels I-10, actually more towards the Gulf side.
And I tell you what, this is not just a coastal storm. This is everyone's storm across the Mississippi Valley and on into the Tennessee Valley as well. For today, expect heavy rain and flooding as far north as Jackson, Mississippi. Birmingham, you know, we're getting statements out of Alabama now. Watch out for the weather to rapidly deteriorate. We're talking about dangerous gusts.